The lightest metal on Earth. So light, it floats on water. So reactive, it ignites the moment it touches the surface. Spent most of its lithium history as a psychiatric drug. Now it's being called the new oil. And the strangest part? That comparison might actually be an understatement. This is Object Origins, where we trace the hidden stories behind the materials that built the modern world. Lithium went from an obscure element discovered in a Swedish lab to the single most fought-over resource of the 21st century. What I want to walk through is how that happened, because it wasn't one leap. It was a series of strange, disconnected chapters that somehow converged into a geopolitical crisis that's unfolding right now. And the country sitting on the largest untouched reserve? It hasn't sold a gram. In 1817, a Swedish chemist named Johann August Arvidsson was analyzing a mineral sample from a mine on the island of Uto. He found something that didn't match any known element. It was embedded in stone. The Greek word for stone is lithos, which is where the name comes from. But when the element was finally isolated, it turned out to be unlike any metal anyone had seen. It was the lightest solid element on the periodic table, so soft you could cut it with a kitchen knife, and so chemically reactive that it couldn't be stored in open air. It had to be kept submerged in mineral oil to prevent it from reacting with moisture. For over a century, nobody could figure out what to do with it. It was a laboratory curiosity, a footnote. Then in 1949, an Australian psychiatrist named John Cade made a discovery that had nothing to do with technology, energy, or geopolitics. He was researching what caused manic episodes in patients with bipolar disorder. He injected lithium compounds into guinea pigs and noticed they became unusually calm. He tried it on human patients. It worked. Lithium became one of the first effective treatments for bipolar disorder, and it remains one of the most widely prescribed mood stabilizers on the planet. Worth noting, this isn't medical advice, and the science here is genuinely humbling. Decades of research later, we still don't fully understand the mechanism. It's the only metal used directly as a psychiatric medication, and the question of exactly how it stabilizes mood remains partially unanswered. A metal pulled from stone, used to quiet the human mind. That was lithium's first life. Its second life started in a lab too, but this one would reshape every device you own. Through the 1970s and 80s, researchers were chasing a problem: how to build a rechargeable battery that was light, powerful, and stable enough for portable electronics. The key breakthrough came from an American physicist named John Goodenough, who identified the cathode material that made a high-voltage lithium battery viable. A Japanese chemist, Akira Yoshino, then developed the first commercially safe lithium-ion cell by redesigning the anode. In 2019, they shared the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for this work. What their lithium battery made possible is hard to overstate. Before lithium-ion, portable electronics were limited by heavy, inefficient power sources. After lithium-ion, the smartphone became possible, the laptop became possible, and eventually, the electric vehicle became possible. Because lithium-ion cells could store enough energy to move a 2-ton car hundreds of kilometers on a single charge. Suddenly, lithium wasn't a psychiatric footnote. It was the backbone of the entire portable energy economy. And that's when people started asking a very different question. Where does it all come from? That question leads to one of the most striking landscapes on Earth, and one of the most complicated geopolitical situations of this century. If you've ever seen photographs of the Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia, a vast mirror-flat expanse of white salt stretching to the horizon, you've seen one of the most beautiful places on the planet. You've also seen one of the most valuable. Beneath that salt flat sits what may be the single largest untapped lithium reserve in the world. Bolivia is part of what's called the Lithium Triangle: Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. 3 countries that together hold roughly 60% of the world's known lithium reserves. This is where the new oil-lithium comparison gets real. Because the geography of lithium is concentrated in a way that mirrors oil's concentration in the Middle East, a small number of countries hold a disproportionate share of a resource the entire world now depends on. But here's where lithium geopolitics gets complicated. Having the resource isn't the same as controlling the supply chain. Right now, China processes a majority of the world's lithium. Some estimates put it near 60% of global refining capacity. That means even when lithium is mined in South America or Australia, it often passes through Chinese facilities before it becomes a usable lithium battery component. The United States and the European Union have recognized this dependency, and both are now investing heavily in domestic processing infrastructure. The language around it is calm. The pace of the spending suggests something closer to alarm. And Bolivia, sitting on that enormous reserve beneath the Salar de Uyuni, has been historically reluctant to open its resources to foreign extraction on terms it considers exploitative. The Bolivia lithium story is one of sovereignty, caution, and leverage. They haven't played their hand yet. There's a tension in all of this that doesn't get discussed enough. Lithium mining, the process that powers the green energy transition, carries its own serious environmental cost. In the lithium triangle, extraction typically involves pumping massive volumes of brine from beneath salt flats and evaporating it in enormous pools. This process can consume extraordinary amounts of water in regions that are already among the driest on Earth. Indigenous communities in parts of Chile and Argentina have raised concerns for years about depleted water tables and damaged ecosystems. Electric vehicle lithium demand is projected to multiply several times over in the coming decades. Now, I think it's fair to acknowledge the counter-argument. Lithium mining's environmental footprint, while real, is significantly smaller than the ongoing damage caused by fossil fuel extraction and combustion. That's a legitimate point, but it doesn't erase the fact that communities living above these deposits are bearing a cost that the rest of the world largely doesn't see. The Green Revolution has a supply chain, and that supply chain has consequences. Not hypothetical ones, but ones already affecting people's access to water right now. This isn't a reason to abandon the transition. It's a reason to be honest about what it actually requires. Oil defined the 20th century. Who had power, who didn't, which wars got fought, which economies rose and fell. Lithium is stepping into that same role, except faster and with higher stakes. Because this time, the world already knows what resource dependency looks like. A metal that started in a Swedish mine, detoured through psychiatric wards, and ended up inside every device and vehicle the modern world runs on. The race to control it isn't coming, it's already here. Nothing in this video is investment or medical advice. If this one gave you something to think about, a like helps it reach more people. And if you're not subscribed to Object Origins yet, there's more here that goes deeper into the materials and resources shaping what comes next.